Welcome to the Money Hour with host Tina Mitchell and co-host Keelan Harvey. Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, and Keelan Harvey, MLO 1330075, are licensed loan originators with Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited, NMLS 134871. The views expressed by the speakers on the following program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited, nor are they necessarily endorsed by Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited. Now, in the studio, local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
Welcome to the Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Friday, June 19th virtual show. Because of COVID-19, our show is temporarily moved virtually, but you can listen to us on podcast or on air on 1150 AM KKNW, Saturday at 3 p.m. with a rebroadcast on Sunday at 8 a.m. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I'm your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
Bringing in expert advice and inside knowledge in today's events and how they can affect your money. If you're hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but we're here to answer any questions or connect you with the guests that we have on the show. You can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And our lineup for today's show, very excited. We're going to have a panel conversation, which means our guests are going to be here for the entire show. We have Kristen Hansen, Samantha Kennedy, Adam Levinson. Okay, we'll get that later, Adam, of Mainsail Financial Group. Financial planning today. Do the traditional strategies still work? Great information and great guests in studio. For more information on any topics discussed, please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And as we start out each week, we'll start out today with a little bit of money chat.
Money.
All right, Keelan. So what do you have to share today for Money Chat? Is this going to be on the personal side or the professional side?
I think everybody's probably sick of hearing about my house, but by the way...
Yay! Congratulations!
Yeah, I got keys to close on that. Don't need to go in any more episodes about that. Let's get some good information for people today. This COVID-19 thing's been interesting, and we've been loving how the freeways have been empty. And now I've noticed, traveling around, traffic is starting to pick up in Seattle finally. And I went to visit a friend in West Seattle, and everybody realized that, that bridge shutdown is crazy because now West Seattle is literally like an island. Like you have to go pretty much to White Center to get West Seattle, and Michigan Street is awful. And we were just talking about that the other day, and then some really good information came out right after. It's not happening anytime soon, but the Federal Transit Administration just said that they're granting $3.75 million to Seattle agencies for transit-oriented development, and that's going to be along Everett, West Seattle, Ballard Light Rail Extension as part of a larger funding program that's going nationally. But $2 million to Sound Transit for early planning development along the light rail extension between Linwood and Everett. And then they allocated another $1.75 million to Seattle to create strategies along the West Seattle Bridge. Amen. Thank you, goodness. I have a lot of friends there, and they are miserable. Their commutes literally tripled overnight. But the bad news about this is West Seattle Extension is not slated to begin service until 2030, Ballard 2035, and Everett 2036. So we have a long haul here in Seattle, but this is going to definitely affect real estate. I've noticed, and since I'm moving to Monroe, it's funny how your mind attracts conversation. So how many people are moving out of the city? And I think there's a lot of anticipation for this light rail and what that's going to do to affect people's commutes. They can now get out farther, and the goal is to get into the city in some type of timely manner. It seems like Seattle has been so far behind the 8 ball on this, and we've had a lot of guests and some planning city developer type people on our show that have talked about it before. And to get a grant of that nature is a huge boost for Seattle, and I'm just looking forward to what this means to maybe reduce some traffic if we're lucky. A lot of in Monroe to Bellevue, it goes from 2 lanes to 1, and that's a big bottleneck. So they're supposed to blow that out to 2 lanes. So I've been told. But we'll see. We'll see as COVID continues to run its course. We'll see, with traffic picking back up, what this is going to mean if we're going to be back full-blown traffic sooner or later. But there is some plans in the works, and I'm excited to see it come to fruition. So.
Yeah, great information, Keelan. It is going to be interesting. That's definitely going to have an impact. And again, a shout out for you and Angela on your new home. And I know that the team is really excited to get our invite and see in person your beautiful home that we've had to just kind of look at all the pictures.
Party at the Harvey house for sure.
Party at the Harvey house. Oh, I like the sound of that. Party at the Harvey house. Sounds awesome. All right. So I thought I'd bring in a little bit of what's happened in the market as well. There are 1.5 million individuals who filed unemployment benefits for the first time last week, which was 300,000 higher than estimates. Continuing claims, which measures people continuing to receive benefits, decreased by only 62,000 to 20.5 million. When you add the following 2 weeks in the initial claims, since this number is backwards looking, there is roughly 23.5 million individuals receiving benefits. Factoring in the amount of new claims, continued claims, and the labor force, we estimate that there will be 16% unemployment rate currently. Now, when you try to estimate how many new jobs PPP has temporarily created, we think that the unemployment rate could be close to 19% without it. Now, and the Mortgage Banker Association released their mortgage application data for last week, showing the overall application volume was up 8% from the previous week. Purchases were up for the 9th straight week, growing by a solid 4% at 11-year highs. On the year-over-year basis, purchase applications are 21% higher. Refinances were up 10%, or still up 106% year over year. Wow. Now, the refinance share of the mortgage activity increased to 63.2% of total applications from 61.3% on the previous week. Interest rates have gone down another 0.25%. Not quoting interest rates here. Full disclosure, there's a lot of different factors qualifying, loan to value, property type, all of that stuff. But you can get an interest rate at 2.75%, depending on the cost structure that you pay on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So it is smoking, and what happens it's happening in the mortgage industry. Now, this is not due to the bond market improving, because there hasn't been much bond movement in the bond market, but from the banking liquidity issue improving a little bit, which we've talked a lot about during Money Chat. We're still not out of the woods, but things are improving with bank confidence improving. They're lowering their margins, which is having an impact on the positive interest rates. CoreLogic equity reports show that homeowners gained 6.5% in equity the past year. We're talking national numbers here. And from 2010, they gained 106,000. Negative equity has significantly improved, down from 26% in 2010 to 3% in 2020. Homeowners have a lot of equity in their homes. 95% have a loan to value below 90%, and 87% have a loan to value below 80%. This means that there's big opportunities for debt consolidation, investing with your financial planning team, which we'll talk with them today, move up buyers, lots of things you can do with the equity that you have in your house. Now, housing starts for May were up only 4.3%, which was much less than the 22% expected. Starts are down 23% year over year. Single family starts were flat and show no gain. Permits were up 14%, which was better than the 10% increase expected, but are still down 9% year over year. Now, single family permits were up 12%. Many thought that starts would come back sooner, but builders were not purchasing land because they thought the demand would come back, would build quicker. Additionally, available labor and material costs were an issue. And with permits higher, we may see starts start to really rebound next week. And that's a little bit of a money chat that Keelan and I have for you today. Coming up next on the Money Hour, financial planning today. Do the traditional strategies still work? We have Kristen Hansen, Samantha Kennedy, Adam Levine, and Adam, I'm really going to come back to you on this one. We're live, so I got to just handle it just the way it is. And they're from Mainsail Financial Group right here at 1150 AM KKNW.
Have you been concerned about your personal finances given all the uncertainty in the markets? Would you sleep better at night knowing you have a thoughtful plan for the future? Mainsail Financial Group helps families just like yours develop a financial roadmap that can provide stability during unpredictable times. Mainsail's team has over 35 years of combined experience and proudly operates in a fiduciary capacity to help clients reach their goals.
This is Adam with Mainsail Financial Group. We have proudly been working with families just like yours all over Western Washington. To learn more about our firm and how we can be of service to you and your family, please send us a quick note to info@mainsailfg.com. Once again, that's info@mainsailfg.com.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host, Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts, Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
And you are listening to The Money Hour at 1150 AM KKNW, the Friday, June 19th virtual show. Because of the COVID-19, our show is temporarily moved virtually. You can also catch our show on podcast or on air Saturday at 3 p.m. with a rebroadcast on Sunday at 9 p.m. 8 a.m. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I'm your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
It's a great day to talk about money. That's what the show is all about, how to make money, save money, so you can have a better quality of life for you and your family. If you're hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, but we are here to answer any questions or connect you with the guests that we have on the show. Please call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150 or online at themoneyhour.com. And in the show right now, you've seen them since we've been here Facebook Live. If you're listening to us on air, you can't see them, but we have Kristen, Samantha, and Adam of Mainsail Financial Group. Financial planning today. Do the traditional strategies still work? Right here at 1150 AM KKNW. Welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, and so let me share the listeners a little bit of a background with the team. As a team, Mainsail Financial Group strongly believes in goal-based planning. They know the proper planning is an ongoing process and relationship-driven activity. As the winds of life shift, a proactive approach is needed to maintain the correct heading. They take pride in building a long-lasting relationship that evolves into dual role of financial steward and trusted financial advisor for you, your family, and your legacy. Their focus is working with individuals and families who have questions or concerns about their current financial picture, long-term security, financial lifestyle, and legacy planning. By taking a comprehensive and detailed approach, they work with you to develop a sound and realistic financial plan that can give you clarity and can help reduce uncertainty as the path to achieving your financial goals become more well-defined.
Well, we're going to start with you, Adam. First of all, can you clarify your last name, please?
I can. That's an easy one. Sure. That's okay. My name is Adam Leibson.
Layson.
Oh,
Leibson.
wow.
Leibson.
That's
Yes.
pretty darn easy.
Okay, let's get that elephant out of the room first and foremost.
Sure.
So,
That's okay.
Thanks, Keelan, for having my back here.
I got your back. I heard him. He's like, and the other guy.
Yeah, well,
I love it.
the fourth, we should introduce the fourth person, which is Brandon Steele. He's the other co-founder of Mainsail Financial Group. So I want to mention him too at the outset.
Oh, thank you so much.
That's all right.
So let's start out. Let's start out with Adam. Let's start out with you. So, and I actually, a little history on me. I was a financial planner myself in New York Life for half a decade. I president and counsel in the whole 9 yards. Transitioned to real estate, investing in real estate, and that's what kind of led me to my career. So on this end of my career in finance, I have a lot of passion for real estate. So I love what you guys do. I think it's a super important service. I'd love to hear from each of you, starting with Adam. Why did you become a financial planner? What does it mean to you?
Sure, that's a good question, and I think a really good place to start. For me, financial planning was never something that I set out to do, actually. I have a science background, and for the longest time, that's what I intended to pursue. I've been a planner and in this business for about 19 years. And 20 years ago, actually, my wife and I, we bought our first house together. And the transaction didn't go as well as we would have hoped. There were some challenges in how things were presented, and it really made me think about financial planning and financial services in general, because I thought that if this sort of thing was happening to me, if there was a lot of uncertainty or lack of clarity around some of these transactions, that's probably going on for other people as well. So I actually got into the business out of anger. I wanted to do everything I could to try to right some wrongs and create more transparency in the planning process and try to build better relationships and more long-lasting relationships by being very straightforward and very direct and very collaborative about the entire planning process.
I got in kind of a little different story, I guess, for myself. Some similarities, but I wasn't wronged necessarily. That's not what led me into it. My family growing up really just didn't have a good handle on finances. And so I think a big part of why I wanted to get in the industry was not only to learn myself, but also help educate others. As I learned more, kind of got a little more heavily involved in what we do day to day now, I understand how hard it is to save and to grow your wealth. And so now that is a huge focus of mine, is to help make sure that, the folks that I work with, we're doing everything we can to protect their hard-earned money and, manage taxation and all that good stuff through it as well.
So true, Brandon, especially considering now it takes something like COVID for people to really realize that they failed in planning, and these are the tough times where, your guys' work is so great to get out there and really change that for people, because, cash is king, as it's always been, as we'd say in the industry, and more so now than ever for some of those that have had a really tough time. So good on you for that, for helping people and encouraging them, being in their corner to put themselves in a better position in life. What about you, Samantha?
I had the opportunity, it's sort of crazy to think 5 years ago, to do a brief internship with Amazon. And I majored in finance and had sort of the crunching numbers experience and a little bit of the corporate finance world. That was when sort of my passion to become a financial planner was born. I have a pretty analytical numbers directed thought process, and I wanted to find a way where I could use that while building relationships with others.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And Kristen, I'd love to get your feedback. You're back there in the corner. It looks small on my screen. I think they're a lot bigger.
I'm here. Hi. It's funny because I took kind of a strange path to get here myself. But one of the things that is really prevalent in my history is that a lot of the people that I knew, and especially the women that I knew, were not comfortable talking about money or finances. A lot of women that I knew didn't have a plan for what to do. They didn't have any goals set. Partially, I think, because of socialization, and we're just not taught those things in the same way. So one of the things that was really instrumental in my life was actually my relationship with Adam. So I've known Adam for about 10 years, and Adam was my planner. And what I found was that every time I met with him, I felt like I had more information, and I felt stronger, and I felt more empowered to make decisions. And I knew more about what I needed to do to take care of myself financially. And I wasn't as afraid of it anymore. It didn't create so much anxiety. So knowing that I felt that way, after a time, I finally said, you know what? This is the direction I need to go in, because if there is someone who can help me feel that way, I can help other people feel that way too. So that's really what brought me here.
And I love that. I love how the team has the balance of female and male, because we all know there's a difference that the female place comes from on the emotional side than the male side, and different perspectives that come from the different genders. So, I love that you have that balance. And Brandon, sorry I left you out of the introduction, and Adam, sorry I can't pronounce your last name, but hey, well, if we had a recorded show, I would just say back up, but we're live here, so we fly with the way it is. So let's talk a little bit about financial planning and what it means to each of you individually through the firm. So Kristen, what about you?
To me, it really boils down to empowerment. right? I think that that's a theme that runs through for me. And having a financial planner or being a financial planner is really having someone objective in your corner who really understands what your needs and your goals are and helps you get there, even if you get sidetracked. That's really,
and yeah,
having somebody keep you on the path and support you, right? Build you up, because it's not always going to be perfect and easy. And sometimes you're going to make a mistake or things are going to be out of your control. And so having someone there to lift you up when those things happen and say, you know what, we're just going to shift in this direction a little bit, but we're still going to keep going toward the same thing.
Absolutely. And, really, that's what the show is about. And I started my show a decade ago, and it was inspired to create a platform to where people can find the best of the best in every area regarding their financing, because you need somebody on your team, whether it's on the mortgage side, the real estate side, the financial planning, the estate side. And so, yeah, you become a part of everything that they do, and even more so on your side as a financial advisor, because you're kind of looking at all of those areas and then connecting them with the people that they need to be in. Samantha, how about for you? What's it mean to you as an individual through the firm on financial planning?
Yes, Tina, financial planning to me is really the opportunity to walk through life with people, sort of to piggyback on what Kristen was saying, really being supportive and holding their hand through some trying times. And I think this environment we're in, COVID-19, it's brought up a lot of sort of threats or uncertainty in people's lives. And so financial planning is absolutely the number side and crunching sort of the figures to help someone reach their goals, but it's equally, if not more important on that emotional side. And so financial planning is, navigating the twists and turns that life presents and hopefully working with clients who ultimately become your friends.
Yeah, you mentioned the emotional side, because I can't think of anything more emotional than the overall financial plan, because that is going to connect to everything else that you're going to be able to do, your family, giving back to your community. I know you guys are really big about people being able to leave their legacy, and you have to have a strong and dialed in financial plan to even be able to think about that at any realistic level. Love that. Brandon, how about for you?
Yeah, I would piggyback on what both Kristen and Samantha said. I think you probably get a sense as you're starting to get to know us a little better that relationships are, I think, at the core of everything that we do. So I would piggyback on that a little bit. But to your point, Tina, I think that planning is really about making the most of your resources, period. And so it's not just about investments. It's not just about stocks and bonds. It's about taxation. It's about all these different areas. And I think a big part of that is also creating multiple paths. The truth is, like, look at the scenario we're in right now with COVID-19. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so a big part of our job, I think, is to kind of create different pathways so that if we are heading down one and something gets thrown at us, we can kind of course correct and make sure that we get back on track.
Yeah, so true and well said. Before we go to our commercial break, which is for radio, not for our Facebook Live, we got to put it in there so that we're setting the space for airing on 1150 AM KKNW. But Adam, let's go ahead and wrap up with you. What's financial planning mean to you as an individual?
Well, the nice thing about going last is I could just say what they said. But I will add one thing really quickly. I think the most important part about planning is that we can help families address not only proactive portions, but also reactive, right? There's a lot to be said for setting the wheels in motion for how we want to retire, how we want our future to look. But I think where good planners set themselves apart is being able to help with the reactive, the part that no one's really expecting. And this sort of condition that we're in is a great example of that. How do we adjust? How do we course correct when something unexpected comes up and we're forced to react?
Yes, so true. All right, coming up next in the money, our financial planning today, and do the traditional strategies still work? We have Kristen, Samantha, Adam, and Brandon right here at 1150 AM KKNW.
Have you been concerned about your personal finances given all the uncertainty in the markets? Would you sleep better at night knowing you have a thoughtful plan for the future? Mainsail Financial Group helps families just like yours develop a financial roadmap that can provide stability during unpredictable times. Mainsail's team has over 35 years of combined experience and proudly operates in a fiduciary capacity to help clients reach their goals.
This is Adam with Mainsail Financial Group. We have proudly been working with families just like yours all over Western Washington. To learn more about our firm and how we can be of service to you and your family, please send us a quick note to info@mainsailfg.com. Once again, that's info@mainsailfg.com.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
And you are listening to The Money Hour on 1150 AM KKNW, the Friday, June 19th virtual show. Because of COVID-19, our show is temporarily moved virtually, but you can catch us on podcast as well as on air Saturday at 3 p.m. and a rebroadcast on Sunday at 8 p.m. on 1150 AM KKNW. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I'm your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
We are here to help you build a strong financial blueprint 1 week and one show at a time. If you're hearing our show at a different time or day, you are listening to a rebroadcast, so we're here to answer any questions, or more importantly, to connect you with the amazing guests that we have on the show. You can call the show at 1-855-400-1150. Again, that's 1-855-400-1150, or online at themoneyhour.com. And in studio, again, we have Kristen, Samantha, Adam, and Brandon of Mainsail Financial Group. Our topic for conversation today is financial planning in today, and do the traditional strategies still work? Right here on 1150 AM KKNW.
Brandon, we're gonna jump back to you. So it's really great that we got to kind of know you on a personal perspective. I have a similar story, just the passion of educating others so they don't fall into those tough times, because we've all seen people struggle financially, and we don't want the people we care about to do the same. But I'm a little curious on your perspective as more, no firms are created equal and they're not all the same. So I'd love to hear more about Mainsail and kind of your firm and what your thoughts are on that side of your business and kind of your goals and hopes to impact people in their lives for the better.
Sure. Yeah, I think at the core of everything, I mentioned relationships earlier. You just brought up the education. I think that's really the key. I think maybe it's kind of threefold. And so one of those areas is education. And I think the reason that's so important to us is that it helps to empower folks, not just, handing something off and expecting a result, but rather understanding why we're doing what we're doing and what the impact is for them.
Yeah.
The second thing that I would touch on is teamwork. I think that is critical in everything we do. I think that a lot of times when there's a team involved, it may kind of run more like an uncivilized society where everybody's kind of in their silos and, doing their own thing and hoping it works out. But what we really try and focus on is making sure everybody is working towards that common goal. My clients know all three of these folks, their clients know me. The whole idea is that it's really seamless, right? So if I'm ever unavailable, it's not like that person can't get a hold of somebody. They've always got somebody to turn to.
Yeah, and we believe in the same philosophy as well on the team. The front of the team, you see Keelan and I day in and day out, but everybody that's on the back end of our team, from Victoria, Director of Marketing, Mark, our loan coordinator, Lisa, our processor. There's a lot that happens. And I think when you're on the front end, having different personalities, again, which we've talked about today, different skill sets, all of those things is a real benefit. So I love the team approach.
Yeah.
Yeah. The education piece didn't change. It's interesting because I totally agree with you, from being a financial planner to what we do now, because it instills confidence in people. There's not these monsters in the closet, right? It's history prevails. You can look back over many cycles and things and predict the future to a degree. Now, this is a weird, unprecedented time. So it's funny me saying this now, but it's not the first pandemic. and there's ways that you could plan. So I think that's key, is just that education, and good on you for you guys staying the course on that. What are your thoughts, Adam, about the firm and your goals?
Well, I think everything Brandon said was spot on. The one thing I would add to it is that as you're already getting a sense, the relationship with our clients is one of the most important pieces to how our firm has been built and will continue to grow. But I will add to it, there's a little bit of brain power as well. I mean, we're all CFPs. We act as fiduciaries. We want to make sure that the information, the guidance, the advice that we bring to our clients is top-notch and current and relevant. As you know, Keelan, you're talking about education. There's always, how would I say it best? Stuff's always changing. And so we want to make sure that we're always staying in the know. We go through a tremendous amount of continuing education and training and workshops and symposiums, and you name the term, but we're always trying to keep our knives sharp so that when we do bring guidance to our clients, it's the most relevant, current, useful, and meaningful advice we can possibly give. In this industry, there's a lot of people that do different products that deal with investments, that manage investments only, that deal with the risk management side. But I think what we really strive to do is set ourselves apart is in the area of advice and guidance, and trying to make sure that all of that is as relevant and on point as it can possibly be.
Yeah, so really, really powerful. So Samantha, let's talk about your relationship with your clients. How would you describe those?
I think it varies slightly client to client. There are some individuals we work with who are trusting day one and want us to handle everything. Then we have the opposite side where we have some clients who want to be a part of every action and almost run the process. And so I think and to what Brandon and Adam were saying, and Kristen a little bit earlier, it really is that education piece. And it's one of those, our job as advisors and the relationship we have with our clients, it's really making sure that they have the education and guidance required to not only understand the actions, but also, believe in the steps to help them get to sort of the finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. In our industry, clients just can't get involved in the process. This is the process, this is the system, this is what's going to be successful through the process, and you gotta trust the process and know that things are going to work out the most efficient way possible. So yeah, interesting stuff. And Kristen, how about for you, your relationships with your clients?
In a word, I would say that those relationships are rich. They're so dynamic. Every single client is different. And what we do is so personal. It touches so many different areas of people's lives. And you're really helping them maybe sometimes even identify what their goals and their dreams are in terms of retirement or long-term planning. So we really get to know them. And those relationships are hopefully really long lasting. You're seeing them through some of the best times of their life. Sometimes you're seeing them through the really hard parts of life. So I really think those relationships they're really rich. They're important and they're valuable.
Yeah, and that's it. And what a great thing too, because you guys you're in all of the important times. And a call to action for anybody if you're listening now today, any life change that you have, it's critically important that you go to your financial planning team, because that's when they step in. They're stepping in at all those important times to make sure that things are getting adjusted as they need to get adjusted. So, so true, Kristen. Adam, what about for you, describing your relationship with your clients?
Well, I would add on to what Kristen was describing, that being there for some of the more challenging times is probably the most satisfying piece of the relationship, because when things are going well, it's easy. But when things are difficult, when there's a job change or something changes in the family and times are stressful, that's where we, I think, make a much bigger impact. And it's really great because after doing this for almost 20 years or so, a lot of clients that I started with in the early days have become very good friends. Not everybody, but I would suspect this is a lot like you and your industry as well. I mean, you really begin to like the people that you do your best work with and for, and you really treat them as part of the family, and they treat you as part of the family. It's very rewarding when someone invites you to their home and they're willing to break bread with you and just talk about what's going on there in their life. And not many industries or professions or trades really create the kind of environment. So some of those relationships are very special and very deep and extremely rewarding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're 25. Oh, I just cut right in there.
Get it. We got the delay. Don't worry. Get it.
25 years in the industry this year, a quarter of a century rocking this business, and 100% that, you build long-standing relationships. My closest friends, my best friends, they're all through in the mortgage industry, because that's where you're getting getting close and personal with everything that's going on. And so, so true.
I was just going to say, I love the offense approach that I'm kind of hearing this undertone of not sitting back and like on your lulls. And that's so important for people that are listening right now. You have nothing to be ashamed of with your finances. I can't tell you how many people, and I know you guys had this happen to you many times when I was in your industry, and they just waited too long. They come to you and it's never too late. And that's not what I'm saying at all. But the sooner you get started, the better you're giving yourself an opportunity, to give yourself a brighter future. So if you're out there and most people know in the back of their mind, they should probably have somebody helping them with their finances. Call these guys, call Mainsail, find yourself, somebody who's in your corner to help you. Speaking of working with people, Brandon, do you guys have, as a firm or individually, an ideal client in the mind, or?
Yeah, to some degree. And I think, that was a perfect segue, I think, in this question. And I think you can definitely tell you've got some of this history in your background because you understand the ins and outs of what we do. I think that one of the reasons that we have a team is to try and help out as many people as we can across the spectrum. To your point, some people come to us when they really need help for something that, is not too late, but it's a reactive piece. Some people come to us when they're just getting started saving. And that relationship doesn't have to be the same for different folks. And again, that's where I think the team comes in, is so that we can help people out no matter where they are in that stage of their career or, financial picture, I guess. If I did have to put a finger on somebody that we make the most impact for or work with, most frequently, I would say generally it's somebody who is a little closer to retirement or in retirement. I think that there's a lot of talk of getting to retirement, like what's my number? But the truth is, where most people come into trouble is coming down the mountain, right? And so a big part of what we do is to help people create that distribution strategy to preserve their wealth, help manage taxation through all that. And what you brought up earlier, maybe start looking at how we create a legacy or, make a little bit of an impact for future generations too.
Yeah, beautiful thing to be able to do that. So, Adam, what do you think the short and long-term effect of COVID-19 is going to have on the financial market and planning strategies?
Sure. Actually, I think I'll address the short term. Brent, maybe you want to talk about the long term. One of the things I would say is that this is a very unusual time. Not to ruin the surprise, I think everyone's aware of that. But I think what a lot of people are reflecting on right now that is unusual is more on the estate planning part of the entire process. The reason why, unfortunately, is that, as we all know, with coronavirus, there has been a very high mortality rate. Most everybody knows someone that's been affected in some way. And so it gets people thinking more about the parts of their financial plan that are related to their mortality and what they want to leave behind and the good they want to do if they're no longer here. Do you want to speak to maybe the long term?
Sure. Yeah. I think from the long term perspective, it actually kind of ties into that. I think that one of the things to be aware of is the impact of what's going on today and what that might mean in the future. In order to get us through this, we are kind of, our hand was kind of forced to have to spend a lot of money, the government, I should say. And so it's very possible we may see higher taxes down the road. And so, as far as something that you can really sink your teeth into, maybe take advantage of or start to implement a strategy around, is starting to think about what that might mean. And whether that's for your distribution in retirement or your legacy, start kind of considering some of those impacts, I guess.
Yeah, and higher taxes, boy, we've been talking higher taxes for quite a while, but definitely I agree, those are coming. All right, so coming up next in the Money Hour, we're going to continue our panel conversation. Do the traditional strategies still work? We have Kristen, Samantha, Adam, and Brendan right here at 1150 AM KKNW.
Have you been concerned about your personal finances given all the uncertainty in the markets? Would you sleep better at night knowing you have a thoughtful plan for the future? Mainsail Financial Group helps families just like yours develop a financial roadmap that can provide stability during unpredictable times. Mainsail's team has over 35 years of combined experience and proudly operates in a fiduciary capacity to help clients reach their goals.
This is Adam with Mainsail Financial Group. We have proudly been working with families just like yours all over Western Washington. To learn more about our firm and how we can be of service to you and your family, please send us a quick note to info@mainsailfg.com. Once again, that's info@mainsailfg.com.
You're listening to The Money Hour with your host, Tina Mitchell, and co-host, Keelan Harvey on Alternative Talk AM 1150. Now, back to the show with local mortgage experts, Tina Mitchell and Keelan Harvey.
You are listening to The Money Hour at 1150 AM KKNW, the Friday, June 19th virtual show. Because of COVID-19, our show is temporarily moved virtually, but you can listen to us on podcast, also catch us on air on 1150 AM KKNW Saturday at 3 p.m. and a rebroadcast on Sunday at 8 a.m. I am your host, Tina Mitchell.
And I'm your co-host, Keelan Harvey.
We bring in studio each week the best of the best experts in our local market on everything money. We're here to help you in today's economy. And now and still in studio or on our Facebook Live show, for those that are watching us Facebook Live, we have Kristen, Samantha, Adam, and Brandon of Mainsail Financial Group. Financial planning today. Do the traditional strategies still work?
So we left off, Brandon. You said something interesting there that was a big eye opener for me. A lot of people don't realize this. You said taxes are going up in the future, and I've realized I can get away with this because I'm not in the industry anymore. But a lot of people just dump all their money in their 401ks. And it's not necessarily the smartest thing to defer your money in a lower tax bracket to withdraw it in a higher tax bracket. So I hope our listeners caught that nugget right there, because there are smarter ways that you can put your money away. You know, the match is free money. That's a given in your 401k with your work. But you need to talk to these guys because your money could be working harder for you. So just a little plug there if anybody missed that. I'm sure also people are wondering kind of during COVID right now, let's talk about the downside. We'll start with you, Kristen. What do you think is the biggest mistake that people could make right now with this uncertainty with COVID?
Sure. Biggest is a hard one, right? There's a lot of biggest mistakes that people can make. And I'm going to go back to what you said earlier, Keelan, about being proactive. I think one of the biggest mistakes you can make right now is avoiding and burying your head in the sand and not looking at it. Right. I think there's an impulse right now because things look either scary or different or out of your control to just sort of turn your head. And now is the time where that's really not a great idea. Even more than it's never a great idea. Right. But right now, especially a few short months and a couple of changes that are based on emotion or reaction could really make a big impact for you in a negative way. So I would say avoiding and being reactive are both probably my two biggest ones.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm hoping with what's happened when people have been forced to change on a regular basis because of everything that we're going through, that they're going to create a different mindset around change is exciting. Because that's why people procrastinate, is everything's okay the way it is, even though they know the way it is not the best way. So hopefully we'll see some different mindsets coming in, really benefit people when it comes to their financial arena.
Insanity, right? Doing the same thing over again, expecting the same results. So, how about you, Samantha? What is your feedback on advice that you could give during uncertain times?
Yeah, thanks, Keelan. I think to me, the biggest sort of mistake someone can make is making a decision purely based on fear. I think there is a lot of uncertainty right now, and fear drives a lot of emotions that one wouldn't make if they were having sort of a more, a higher level conversation.
I love that. False expectations appearing real, right? It's the human fight or flight. And, sometimes people realize that things aren't as scary if you approach them head on. So what about you, Adam? What are your thoughts on uncertain times and what people should be concerned about?
Sure. So along the same vein, as far as what will be something that people maybe should not do at this point. Well, and I recognize the fact that there's a lot of unemployment and there are certainly a lot of very real challenges with that. But I think one of the biggest mistakes is to stop habits that have been working thus far. We've been hearing from a couple of clients that they want to stop with their 401k contributions and stop with their monthly contributions to education accounts because the market is down. Why would I want to put money in now? And so trying to reinforce the idea of keeping those habits and keeping a long-term approach. And I think most importantly, sticking with a plan, right? The idea of planning is to guide you through these good times and these bad times. And why, if all of a sudden things are more challenging, would we stop doing all the things that have been successful so far and that we know we should be doing, right? My daughter says, well, maybe I should stop making my bed, right? I'm home from school every single day. Why should I make my bed every morning? Like, you know what? Because we've always been doing that. And just because the conditions are a little different on the outside doesn't mean we want to change those successful habits that have been getting the job done for you to this point. Plus, you won't get your allowance.
And I couldn't agree with you more on that for sure. Like, you got to just continue the course. I used to tell, especially on the accumulation side, I set it and forget it. You don't want to forget it, but you don't need to look at the market every 10 minutes. Put your money away, do the same thing every single month and let it do its work. So what about you, Brandon?
I'll kind of piggyback on what everybody said, but maybe take a little fresh spin on it and say that I think where people make these mistakes are because they're not referring to their plan. Like kind of as Adam was saying, it all starts with having a game plan, having a strategy, and when you don't have that in place, it is very easy to make these types of mistakes and get kind of caught up in the emotions and the ups and downs of the markets or health concerns with COVID. I mean, you name it. And so I think that is where it all starts. Is if you kind of create that solid baseline plan, you can kind of take a step back and remember what you're doing and why, and hopefully that'll help to avoid some of these mistakes.
Yeah, you got to just stick to the plan. You're right.
And so Samantha, we've talked a little bit about, clients and what they're saying. What are you hearing from your clients in this environment?
Yes, this comment has come up over multiple conversations, and I think there's quite a bit of confusion on how volatile the stock market is right now. I think most people believe the stock market reflects how the economy is doing, and the reality is the stock market is to some extent independent of the economy. And so, what sort of the value or sort of, I guess, maybe the comfort we're able to give our clients is letting them know that they have a professional in their court, but also as a firm and as individuals, one of our primary goals for our clients is to mitigate that risk. And so I think seeing the stock market go up 5% one day and down 7% the next is nerve-wracking for anybody. But really, it's how do we make that connection and really tying back to the plan, and how do we encourage our clients to focus on the broader discussions.
Yeah, and again, you've hired an expert for a reason. So you need to trust and let them guide you through the process. There are decisions that people need to make when it comes to anything, including financial plan. But majority of the time, there's advice by your expert leading you through the process, and you have to let them do what their expertise is and trust through the process. So Brandon, what about you? What are you hearing from your clients in this environment?
I think for the most part, it's been a really interesting time because I think generally when the markets are down, we hear a little bit more of like, what's going on? How do we fix it? How do we get out of this? But as you guys know, look, we're doing this show over Zoom. You guys aren't used to this. This COVID-19 has impacted everybody in some way, shape, or form. and a lot from a health standpoint. And so I'm not sure, I don't know directly if that's why, but it seems like this time people are more concerned about health and making sure things are okay and like community as opposed to their portfolio. So it's been interesting. It seems like, of the downturns, this one has a little different skew to it, I guess.
Well, and that's so true. I mean, anytime that there's something of massive proportion that's coming in, it changes people, and not just changes for today, what's happening, but changes overall, because we're experiencing things that we haven't experienced. And so there's some real positive things that can come out of with that change. People thinking about their health, thinking about their future, thinking about their money, thinking about these things that we should be thinking about all the time. But when we're real up and personal with something like this, things change. So yeah, so true.
Yeah, I mean, this was scary too. I never thought, we used to laugh about rates. Like, I don't know if we spoke it into the world, but we were like, rates to go down, it'd have to take like a war or a pandemic. And who would have thought, next thing you know, we're in a pandemic. It's stuff happens in life and you got to prepare. I got a question for you, Adam. I want to jump you back in the conversation here. So what do you see? I remember what I used to see back in the day before this, but considering maybe possibly COVID or just in general, what do you think are the biggest areas that are overlooked when it comes to financial planning these days?
So the answer to that, I could spend hours talking about, which I will not. But basically, I think there's two things. One of them, I think that's a little more relevant to what I was speaking to early on, is that there's a little more attention being paid to estate planning right now. A lot of clients are saying, you know what, I do have a will, but I haven't looked at that thing in like 10 years. I've got 2 kids that I didn't have back then. I think because, as Brandon was saying before, it's really this more of a health issue, a health crisis that's triggered a lot of this. People are paying more attention to their estate plan to make sure that that part of it is shored up. And that's, again, very advice driven. It's very personal, very individual. The other part of it that I would say is also very important, and even more so now, again, to what Brandon was describing before, we know taxes and tax rates are probably going to be changing at some point. Will probably not be going down a whole lot more than they are now. So how do we really take advantage of some of the tax efficiency and different tax deferral methods that a little more than we are right now? Do we have Roth 401ks at their employer? A lot of people don't know if they do or not. How do we use different taxable buckets to really diversify the kind of tax we're going to have to pay? And so, again, that is not a product-related approach, but I think that good conversation and good advice and really trying to figure out how to make the most out of what you have leads to a conversation about tax efficiency and tax planning. It's not very exciting stuff. I mean, it's not something that people come home from work and say, hey, honey, let's talk about taxes, right? But we get the privilege of doing that when we get to meet with our clients. And so it's a really important and often overlooked area.
Yeah, you hit that on that. A lot of people don't realize your plan changes, your wealth changes, your situation changes. To have that thing dusty in your closet for 15 years and estate plan is not going to work. You got to be on top of that. And so smart. Buckets is a great analogy. Pre-tax buckets, after-tax buckets, aggressive buckets, not aggressive buckets, and making sure, I hate to use the blanketed word diversified, but it's so important that you have a strategy all over the board and not just laser focused on one thing, because all your eggs in one basket, you can lose all your eggs. Not the way to go. So good advice for our listeners.
Absolutely. We've got less than a minute to wrap up the show. I'll leave this up to Kristen or Samantha. How would you encourage someone to stay objective in this world of distraction? Long question to answer, but 60 seconds.
Okay, well, here I go. I would say focus on the things focus on the areas where you can make an impact, right? There's all of this noise, all of these things happening, so much input, news channels and social media and all of this. And I think that it's, instead of focusing on all of those things, find the one area that makes sense to you and focus on that area. Do something that feels good. Make a positive change for yourself or for someone else.
Great answer, very efficient answer, and so much information. We had so many more questions we wanted to ask, but an hour goes by quickly. I want to give a shout out and thank you for the team of Mainsail Financial Group. If you want to reach out to them, You can call the show at 1-855-400-1150, or you can go online to themoneyhour.com. And Kristen, Samantha, Adam, Brandon, thank you so much for joining Keelan and myself.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it very much.
And this is your host, Tina Mitchell, your local mortgage expert, signing off for the day.
And your co-host, too. Don't forget about your co-host, signing off for the day.
I went right before you. There you go. Best sign-off ever. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday and your weekend coming up. And we look forward to talking more money with you next weekend right here on 1150 AM KKNW.
Tina Mitchell, MLO 145420, and Keelan Harvey, MLO 1330075, are licensed loan originators with Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited, NMLS 134871. The views expressed by the speakers on the preceding program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited, nor are they necessarily endorsed by Highlands Residential Mortgage Limited.